Have you ever wondered what life would be like without fire? No fire to cook food, no fire to keep warm at night, not even a spark to light the dark. Now imagine a group of people who lived like this, not thousands of years ago, but today. In a faraway place, hidden deep in the wild, a tribe lived a life completely different from ours. They didn't have electricity, phones, or even fire. How is that possible? How did they eat, survive, and stay safe? And what happened when they finally saw fire for the first time? The answers will shock you, and maybe even change the way you see the world, far away from cities, roads, and even maps. There was a forest no one dared to enter, thick with giant trees, loud with wild animals, and covered in fog most of the year. This place seemed untouched by time. Locals whispered stories about it, strange stories. They said there were people deep inside the forest, people who had never met the outside world. Most thought these were just legends. But in the year 2008, something changed. A small team of scientists and explorers, guided by satellite images and local clues, decided to enter that unknown forest. Their goal was simple: study the plants and animals. What they found was something no one expected. After days of walking, cutting through vines, and sleeping under the stars, they saw movement. Not an animal, a person, dark skin, painted face, holding a spear. He vanished before they could speak. The team froze, stunned. Were the stories true? The next day, they saw more. A small group, watching from a distance. The explorers didn't move. They simply sat down and waited. They knew first contact had to be slow, respectful. For days, they left gifts, fruit, tools, beads. In return, the tribe left signs, marks on trees, small handmade items. It was their way of saying, "We see you." Finally, a man stepped forward, then another, then women and children, dressed in leaves, their hair tied in strange patterns, their eyes filled with curiosity and caution. These were not ancient people trapped in time. They were very much alive and completely cut off from modern life. No one had seen them before. No government had records of them. They didn't even have a name for themselves in the way we understand names. They had their own language, their own rules, and their own way of living, untouched for possibly thousands of years. But the biggest surprise wasn't just their isolation. It was something else. Something the explorers didn't even notice. At first, this tribe didn't use fire. Not for cooking, not for heat, not for anything. They didn't even seem to know what fire was. At first, the explorers thought it was a mistake. Maybe they just hadn't seen it yet. But after weeks of observation, it became clear these people had never discovered fire at all. The explorers couldn't believe what they were seeing. At night, when the forest got cold and full of sounds, insects buzzing, wolves howling, wind rushing through trees, the tribe huddled together in silence. No fire, no flames, no light. They sat in the dark, their eyes wide open, waiting for the sun to rise. One night, a scientist quietly asked, "Where is their fire?" But no one had an answer. They had built small huts from leaves and wood. They hunted animals with handmade spears and ate fruits and raw meat. But not once did they burn anything, not even a spark, not even smoke. It wasn't just strange, it was unbelievable. Fire is one of the oldest things humans have used. Even the earliest humans discovered it by accident. Lightning strikes, volcanic lava, or sparks from stones. But this tribe, nothing. The The scientists were careful. They didn't want to scare anyone or break the tribe's trust. So they kept watching, recording notes, and trying to understand. How do you survive without fire? One of the scientists, a young woman named Lena, had a theory. Maybe, she said, they never had to need it. The forest gave them everything: fresh fruits, fish from rivers, soft plants for shelter. Maybe fire was never discovered because life didn't push them to look for it. It was like stepping into a different version of history, a parallel path where humans took another route. Lena began comparing notes. The tribe's skin was rougher, possibly from the cold. Their teeth were stronger, maybe from eating raw food. Their sense of smell seemed sharper. They could track animals without noise or tools. They had adapted. They weren't behind. They were just different. And then came the question that shook everyone. It made the team wonder, was fire really the start of progress, or just one of many paths? No one had answers yet. But one thing was clear. This tribe had lived a completely different story, and it wasn't over, because soon the tribe would see fire for the very first time. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. Living without fire might sound impossible, but for this tribe it was normal. Every day they woke up with the sun and slept when it got dark. They didn't have clocks or alarms. Time was measured by the light in the sky and the sounds of the forest. Their food was all raw. They ate fruits, nuts, and wild plants. When they hunted animals, they didn't cook the meat. Instead, they ate it fresh, sometimes dried by the sun, sometimes soaked in water with herbs to kill bad stuff. It wasn't tasty by our standards, but it kept them alive. They didn't boil water. They drank straight from rivers and rain. Over generations, their bodies got used to it. What would make us sick was fine for them. But it wasn't just about food. The tribe had no torches, no candles, no lights. When the sun went down, they didn't move much. They stayed close, shared stories in soft voices, and waited for morning. The dark wasn't scary for them, it was normal. They used stones and bones as tools. Their weapons were carved from wood, sharpened with rocks. Clothes were made from leaves, tree bark, and animal skin tied with vines. They didn't need sewing needles or fire to shape things. Their hands, teeth, and time did the work. Cold nights were harder. Without fire, they huddled together in groups. Warmth came from body heat and thick blankets made from leaves and fur. Babies were always held close, never left alone. It was their way of protecting each other. Still, life wasn't easy. There were illnesses, wild animal attacks, and sudden storms. But the tribe had their own medicine, special roots, crushed leaves, and rituals passed down for generations. They knew which plants healed and which ones harmed. Their belief system was built around nature. They worshipped the sun, trees, water, and even shadows. Since they had no fire, they saw light as a gift from the sky, not something humans could create. To them, fire was not missing, it simply didn't exist. And that's what made their world so unique. Because while the rest of humanity shaped history with flame, cooking, building, melting, forging, this tribe found a different way, a quieter way, a way without smoke, heat, or sparks. But all of that was about to change. Soon, they would see the one thing they had never seen before. Fire. The day fire entered their world didn't feel like a normal day. It began quietly. The explorers had set up camp nearby and lit a small fire to boil water and prepare food. But what they didn't know was that a group of the tribe was watching from behind the trees, their eyes wide with fear and wonder. The flames danced in the air, bright and alive, crackling softly as smoke curled into the sky. To the tribe, this wasn't just something new, it was something beyond understanding. A few children crept forward, their faces glowing in the orange light, while the adults stayed back, tense and silent. One brave elder stepped closer and studied the fire with intense eyes, as if trying to decide whether it was a spirit, a threat, or a gift from the sky. The tribe had no word for fire, no story to describe it, no memory of ever seeing anything like it. Some whispered to each other in low voices, others began to hum strange tunes, possibly chants or warnings. One woman held her child tightly, shielding his eyes, while another sprinkled ash from a burnt leaf on the ground, as if trying to speak to the earth. And yet, despite the fear, no one turned away. They stayed, they watched. The flickering light drew them in like a mystery waiting to be solved. Their hearts raced as the explorers added more wood, and the flames grew taller, brighter. A few tribe members stepped back quickly, startled by the sudden flare-up. To them it was almost alive, a creature made of light and heat, something wild that could not be trusted. But others leaned in, curious and drawn to its warmth. That single fire lit more than just the forest floor. It lit a moment that would forever divide the tribe's past from its future. In that one day, everything they knew, believed, and trusted was challenged. Fire had always been missing, and they had never questioned its absence. But now, faced with its presence, they couldn't look away. And as the flames continued to burn, the tribe stood still, caught between fear and long after the fire had been seen, touched, and used. The tribe was no longer the same, and maybe neither were the people who discovered them. Fire brought change. It made cooking easier, kept them warm, and gave light during the night. But it also brought something else, questions, big ones. Some tribe members loved the new warmth and light, while others grew quiet, unsure if this gift had taken something from them. Their simple nights under the stars were now filled with flickering shadows and the constant crackle of flame. Food tasted different, but so did life. Arguments started, not about survival, but about change. Some wanted to learn more from the outsiders. Others wanted things to stay the same. Slowly, stories around the fire replaced the old forest songs. The forest, once their guide and protector, now seemed a little less powerful in the glow of firelight. And from far away, those watching this change couldn't help but wonder, what have we traded for progress? In our world, fire was just the beginning. It led to machines, cities, screens, and noise. But in this tribe's world, its arrival marked the end of something pure and untouched. Their story reminds us that every invention, every discovery, has a cost. We gain comfort, but we often lose connection. They had survived without fire for centuries, not because they were weak, but because they had mastered a life we can barely imagine. And now, as their world blends into ours, we're left with a powerful question. Are we truly more advanced, or just more distracted? Discovery between the world they had always known and the world that had just begun. The story of this tribe isn't just about people who lived without fire. It's about what we've forgotten along the way. In our world of screens, lights, and constant noise, it's easy to think we've come so far. But have we also left something behind? This tribe showed us that life doesn't always need to be fast, bright, or loud to be meaningful. Sometimes, the quietest lives carry the deepest wisdom. As fire lit up their world, it also lit up a mirror for ours, showing how much we depend on things we take for granted. Maybe it's time we slow down, listen to the world around us, and ask ourselves, what really matters? If this story made you think, even just a little, hit the like button. Subscribe for more real stories from the forgotten corners of our world. And tell us in the comments, what would you miss most? If fire never existed,